Wild is an eternal format, which means every card is available to be used. Wild was initially branded as the format where you can always play your old favorite decks, and at its core, this is still true. Aside from a few nerfs, nothing is stopping you from throwing together an old deck and playing it on ladder. However, when you do this, you'll get stomped by the current Wild meta decks. It seems that, over the past year and a half, the power level in Wild has skyrocketed, and barring some divine intervention from Blizzard, it'll only increase as time goes on. Today we're going to take a look at one of the main reasons why the power level of the format has increased, cards that require being built around. We'll see what makes them significant, why they create decks that are super powerful in this environment, and look at where these types of cards will take us into the future of the Wild format. So I bet you're asking, why are the build-around cards powerful enough to warrant an entire video on them? Looking at the top 2 tiers of the Wild metagame, you could argue that 13 of the top 17 decks in the format have game plans which circle on core cards. The days of just putting the best all-around cards into your deck are gone, which is clear when looking at the lack of power cards from last year. Dr. Boom and Piloted Shredder, which were 2 dominant cards from the early days of Hearthstone, see little to no play in the format, as decks now rely much more on synergies rather than the best minions at their mana slot. To clarify, a build-around card is a card with a powerful effect that requires you to make subpar deck building choices in order to get its effect. The prime example of this is Reno Jackon, which gives you the insane effect of a full heal when played, but comes at the cost of requiring you not to play duplicates in your deck. From a deck building standpoint, the card allows you to sacrifice some of the consistency in the power level of the deck for the potential to get this insane effect out of the card. This is at least what Team 5 intended when developing these cards. And in Standard, as well as the early history of Wild, this is a fine assumption to make, and a rather clever design, making a trade-off between consistency and focus power in one card. But recently, a few factors have led us to hit a point where build-around cards have changed in functionality, and 2 cards in particular have showcased this in Wild. We spoke a little bit about this effect in our How Rastakhan Revived Reno Lock video, but to summarize, with the amount of cards in Wild, the deck building restrictions that most build-around cards face in Wild have become mitigated by the fact that the format has so many cards available. Taking Reno Lock as an example again was its inconsistency due to only being able to run one of each card. Looking now at the options available to the deck, while it still can't run duplicates, enough cards exist so that you can build consistency by including cards which share a similar functionality. For example, if you're looking for a 5-mana Death Rattle Taunt, Sludge Belcher and Rotten Apple Bomb serve the same function. If you're looking for a combo Disruption effect, Dirty Rat and Death Lord serve the same purpose even though they're different cards. Blast Crystal Potion and Siphon Soul act as single target removal, Hellfire and Defile as early game board clears, and Blood Reaver Gul'dan and Azoth work as board refill cards to end the game. The list goes on and on. This build-around effect has come to light recently due to the introduction of 2 cards in the Witchwood set, Genn and Baku. Rather than the traditional build-around card, these 2 cards operate a bit differently. Instead of getting a powerful effect for your deck building choices when the card is played, they change your hero power at the start of the game. This allows for consistent modified hero powers throughout the game, which gives the deck an opportunity to capitalize on their advantage as soon as the game starts and continue to do so throughout the game. Add in the larger card pool and cards which synergize with the upgraded hero power, and the downside of not being able to use half the card pool becomes much less relevant than intended. Besides Genn, Baku, and Reno, there are a few other cards in the metagame which have build-around cards which drive the top archetypes of the format. Blood Reaver Gul'dan, N'Zoth, Anything Can Happen, and Kingsbane are just a few cards which fall into this category. However, when looking at cards that have grown in strength due to the size of the card pool, Barnes is one of the main cards that has benefited from this effect and will push more decks into a forced build structure. Barnes has recently sparked backlash as many players think the design of this card is unhealthy. Multiple players are complaining about his power level on Twitter, and the ability for the deck to win the game on the spot when played turn 4 in Big Priest, which is a deck that capitalizes on the synergies that he provides to the extreme. What's interesting with Barnes is that we feel that he's only strong due to the vast expanse of the Wild format. When Barnes came out in One Night in Karazhan, there weren't as many decks that could make use of his tutor effect, but he was still seen as an oppressive card. Many games would end on turn 4 due to high rolling of Barnes. This small pool of good targets made Barnes a medium level power card. As stronger late game cards are introduced, resurrect effects hit a critical mass, and the Control Priest shell got stronger, and all of a sudden this mediocre build-around card is one of the strongest cards in the game. Barnes should be a warning to all of us about how the introduction of new cards will increase the power level of build-around cards over time, making them essential to the Wild format. As more effects are created, different synergies will improve these power cards and raise their power level significantly. This allows for us to make some predictions on some cards that might be good in the future due to the fact that they are similar type of card but would need more support, such as the Undertaker and Genn Greymane. They might not be superstars in the next expansion or even this year, but there's a good chance that they'll have their day in the spotlight. While these cards could represent some issues to the future of the Wild metagame if not handled correctly, we are a while away before things can get out of control. There are ways for Blizzard to combat this, such as the balancing of some of these cards, but only time will tell how the Wild Hearthstone meta will develop. Thank you for watching! Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more Tempo Storm news and Hearthstone content.